evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Night News. Our main story tonight: Senior Police Officer Ahmad Rizal bin Umar, in from Kaningau, has been found guilty for the murder of a single mother, Kartini Burhan. Joining me tonight, here live, are two major figures who played a major role in his prosecution: criminologist Dr. Nahaiza Naja and well-known public prosecutor Aifa Natasha. Ladies, it's a pleasure to have you tonight.
Indeed, it's a pleasure.
Now, Dr. Naja, could you walk us through this case that is currently sweeping the news?
Certainly. The case involved a high-profile murder. A police officer has murdered a person who was suspected of being in their love triangle affair issues. The evidence is a complex web of clues and suspects, and it's become a media sensation.
Quite the sensation indeed. Now, in your opinion, what's your opinion on the evidence collected so far from the crime scene?
Well, I have reviewed the evidence, and it's a challenging one. There's a mix of forensic evidence, surveillance footage, and witness testimonies. We have to analyze the crime scene, the victim's background, and potential motive to build a comprehensive profile of the perpetrators.
Now, Ms. Aifa, as the public prosecutor for this case, what was the biggest challenge your team had to face so far?
Definitely the media attention. With all the publicity, there's a risk of prejudicing the jury and impact their neutrality. Our job is to ensure that our client receives a fair trial and to challenge the evidence presented by the defense team.
And how do you balance reporting on the case while respecting the legal process?
It is a delicate balance. I aim to report the facts without sensationalism and respect the legal proceedings. It is important to let the justice system work without undue influence from the media.
As a criminologist, Dr. Naja, what aspects should the investigating officers focus on to help them solve this case?
I recommend a thorough analysis of the forensic evidence such as blood pattern analysis and the victim's last movements. Additionally, they should look into any meeting events, their conversation and relationship. It's essential to consider all the possibilities and tie up the knots to make a conclusion.
Absolutely. We will scrutinize this aspect as well to ensure the integrity of the case.
Then, Ms. Aifa, could you explain to us the exact timeline of this case?
So far, there have been two statements recorded from the accused. In the earlier statement, he claimed that he received a distress call from his female friend, which is the deceased, who said a robber has broken into her house. The accused then rushed to her rescue, which resulted in both getting injured and led to the death of the deceased. This statement, however, opposed to the initial statement, where the investigating officer found that the accused had been at the deceased's premise earlier than he claimed. In fact, he was with the deceased during the period of the alleged robbery.
And how did the investigating officers know to determine which of the statements were true?
This is where the story got more interesting. Based on the evidence gathered by forensics from the crime scene, there was no evidence to indicate a false entry on the grill and study notes. The first statement was intentionally a made-up story by accused to cover his act. The photo fit identification of the intruder based on the accused description did not exist at all. So the investigative officer was able to connect the dots, realize that the accused's initial statement were entirely contradict to his later statement.
Quite ingenious of the officer. Now, could you also further elaborate on the nature of the wounds suffered by the accused?
The medical expert has reported some of the wounds: an injury on the knee and an incised wound in the inner side of the left palm. The wounds, however, were not life-threatening and has similarities in terms of its particular forms and the shape of structure. If these wounds were caused by the struggle between the accused and the robbers, the wounds would have been more randomized and had shown more force to cause severe injuries. So the expert concluded that a normal person with that kind of knowledge would came out with these type of wounds by making subconscious pair as an effort to imitate assault wounds. Other evidence has also discovered another discrepancy from the accused statement where he had mentioned dragging himself from the house to his car using both his hand and good leg as a support, with the injured leg stretched out. However, bloodstain pattern analysis showed that there was no sign of drag marks on the bloodstain, but only trickling of spotted bloodstains, which you can see from the photograph taken from the crime scene that show that the accused has no problem with walking.
Unfortunately, that is all the time we have left for our interview. Thank you for your insights on this complex and brutal case, and we'll be sure to follow the conclusion of this case very closely. And to our viewers, for more updates, stay tuned on our show, Night News.